Hello, geometry friends. Today we are going to start our next chapter and we're going to get into a little bit more geometry stuff here. And today we're going to start it by finding unknown angle measures. Now, angles are kind of new for some of us, and some of us may have forgotten some of it. Angles, if you remember, are what we have here is we have a point and we have two rays coming out of it. And an angle measure tells us how wide it is. So you could have big angles like this. These are called obtuse. And you can have little baby angles, and these are called acute. And today we're going to use some tricks to find out what the measure is. And we're going to get lots of practice with it. If you have some questions, that's going to be okay. We're going to have lots of time to figure this out. So basically, triangles have three angles in them. And then we call them interior angles because they're inside the triangle. And this is the big guy that you're going to need to know. So you can write this in your note. You can put the sum of, and this is a symbol for angles in a triangle is 180. So basically what that tells us, if every single triangle of the world, if you take the three angles and you add them together, you are going to get 180 because that's 70 plus 50, that's 120. 120 plus 60 is 180. This is called an acute triangle because all those angles are kind of small. This one, you have a 90 and a 45 and a 45. 90 and 45 is 135 plus 45 more, also 180. They all equal 180. This is actually called a right triangle. We could put a little block there to show us that it's 90. That's something we sometimes do in geometry. This guy is called an obtuse triangle because 97 is bigger than 90, so we call it obtuse. And if you take 97 plus 35 plus 48, I would probably go to my calculator on that one, but it also equals 180. So what we can do is we can use this fact that if you add all three angles, it equals 180 to find missing angles of a triangle. And that's what we're going to do on this guy. So first we're going to try to find the angles. We're going to find x. So what do we know? Well, there's two ways that kids do this. There's actually probably three ways kids do that, and I'll show you all three ways. Some kids will just get in their calculator and they'll say, oh, triangles add to 180, and they're right. So they'll take 180 minus 120 minus 30 to figure out what the missing angle would have to be, and they will get the answer is 30 degrees. So x equals 30. I have some kids who will say, okay, well, 120 plus 30 is 150. So I'll just take 180 minus 150 and I will get 30. That's perfectly fine. We got the same answer. And then not many kids, but there's a few kids who say angles add to 180. So they'll write an equation, x plus 30 plus 120 equals 180. They'll combine their like terms. X plus 150 equals 180. Subtract 150 and get 30. Either way it works. Like I said, not many kids set the equation, but there will be a few of you who might want to do that. So when we have two angles of a triangle, we can always find the third. Now, this word adjacent is talking about angles, and these are angles that are next to each other. Now, when I say next to each other, that's kind of confusing. Are 120 and x next to each other? That's not what we're really talking about. What we're talking about is that they have to share a side, and I'm going to write this down too. Share a side and a vertex. And they need to be right next to each other. So if you look here, this 120 is adjacent to the x. Oh, I need a different color. They're right next to each other. They share a vertex, which is called the point here, and they also share a side, and the side or the ray that they shared was this guy. Okay, there's another pair of adjacent angles in this example. We have angle X is adjacent to this angle 30. They share that vertex and they share that side. Now, 120 is not adjacent to angle 30. Those are not adjacent. They share a vertex, but they don't share a side. They're not next to each other. They have to be side by side. So here is another fun fact that you're going to want to write down in your notes. So we know that triangles add to 180. Another thing that adds to 180 is straight lines. Straight lines add to 180 degrees. So here you have a straight line, and I have 120 here, and I have 30 here, so we can figure out what that missing piece is, just like we did with the triangle. You can take 180 minus 120 minus 30. You could take 120 plus 30 and get the 150, and then take 180 minus 150. I didn't finish this one, did I? Or you could write x plus 30 plus 120 equals 180 and solve it that way. And what's interesting about these two guys is that these angles are the same. If I was to rip off the corners of these triangles and put them together, they would make a straight line. Okay, so here it says 2 interior angle measures are given. What would the third measure have to be? So we're going to figure these out by either taking 180 minus 40 minus 50. So this would be 90 on this one. Or you could take 60 plus 60. That gives you 120. And then take 180 minus 120 to get 60. Why don't you pause it to see if you can figure out the last two? Okay, so hopefully you would have taken 180 minus 42 minus 66. I'm going to type this one into my calculator. And I get 72 degrees. Or maybe you took 24 plus 25. That gives me 49. And then take 180 minus 49. Again, I'm going to go to my calculator. And I get 131. So we have triangles add to 180 and straight lines add to 180. Next idea is an exterior angle. It's on the outside of a triangle. And what happens, an exterior angle, like angle A here, it makes a linear pair or a straight line with one of the interior angles because they are adjacent. So these are two vocab words you will need to know. An exterior angle of a triangle is outside of the triangle. That's what the exterior means. And adjacent to an interior angle. So they only drew one here where angle A is, but I could extend this side here, and the star angle is another exterior angle. I could have extended it this way and made the smiley face angle an exterior angle. I could go over here and make the heart angle here would be adjacent and outside. And I could have gone down by extending this side where the W is. This angle is an exterior angle. And there was one more if I would have extended this side, the smiley face one here. Okay, so exterior angles are outside of the triangle. You can find them by extending a side. A linear pair are two angles that make a straight line that are adjacent and form a line. So because of that, they add to 180. Okay, so we're going to use what we know about triangles to find this angle A. Well, angle A is next to the smiley face angle. So together, if I take A plus the smiley face, I'm going to get 180. but I don't know what the smiley face is yet, but I can figure it out because there's this nice little triangle here. So what I'm going to do is I'll take 180 minus 120 minus 40, or you can take 120 plus 40 and subtract that from 180, and we get 20 degrees for the little smiley face angle. So smiley face is 20 degrees. Now, because they make a straight line, you can take 180 minus 20, and you can see that smiley face angle plus angle A will give you 180, and angle A is 160. There is a shortcut to doing problems like that because these two add to 180 with a smiley face, and A adds to 180 with a smiley face. You could have taken those two inside ones that are far away from the A and get that exterior angle. That could have been a shortcut if you would have saw that. But the way most of you will probably go is you'll find the smiley face by using the triangle and then use the straight line to get to 180 that way. Let's do some more practice here. So on this case, we can find angle X and angle Y. Now, in this case, Y makes a straight line with 35. So that is a 180. When I take 180 minus 35, I'll get angle Y, and angle Y is 145 degrees. Now I also have a triangle here, and all three angles of the triangle add to 180. So maybe this time I take 90 plus 35, and I get 125. And I take 180 minus 125, get 55. Again, the other way you could have done it is you could have just taken 180 minus 35 and minus 90 in your calculator. You'll get the same answer either way. Here is another one. This time it says these two are X. It doesn't tell us any of the inside, but I do know this outside is 80. So because the outside is 80, I can find that smiley face angle because straight lines add to 180. If you take 180 minus 80, that gives me the smiley face angle is 100. Now what do I do? Well, I have two that are X. So I can't just take 180 minus 100 because then I'd have two of them to do. So if you tried to take 180 minus 100, you get 80, but that is for two angles. They are the same. They're both X. So if you divide it by 2, you can get that each angle would be 40. Another way that you could do that might be a little bit nicer is once you figure out that smiley face angle is 100, you can write the equation. X plus 100 equals 180. That's 2x plus 100 equals 180 because if you take 1x plus 1x, you get 2x. Subtract 100, you get 2x equals 80 and divide by 2, and then you see that x equals 40, just like we said. So we found the measure of the interior angle. That was 100. We found the sum of the interior angles of the triangle, which is 180 if you add all the interior angles, and we were able to figure out what x is using those ideas. Here is another one. You have to find what x is. Well, x makes a straight line right here with that exterior angle. So if you take 180, because straight lines add to 180, and you subtract 100, you can get that angle x equals 80. Not only that, we could figure out the smiley face angle if we wanted. If you take 180 minus 80, minus 36, because all the triangle angles add to 180, you can see that that smiley face angle would be 64 degrees. These are kind of like puzzles. Some kids kind of think they're fun and some kids kind of struggle. So let's see what else we have. This time we have a rectangle. What is the value of x? Well, what do we know about x? If you know anything about triangles, we talked about this with area, we decided that they cut in half, right? The two triangles make one rectangle. So if I turn this, if I fold it, it's not quite right, but if I turn it around so that this angle is right on top like this, If this is 90, where would x be? X would be right here. Wouldn't x match up with that 21? It sure would. X is going to be 21. Now, some of you might not have seen that. What some of you might want to do, let's see what we could do here. Well, if this is 90, then this has to be 90. So you can take 90 minus 21 to get that missing angle. And that missing angle will be 69 degrees. And now that you know that that's 69 degrees, you can use triangles add to 180. You could take 180 minus 90 minus the 69 degrees, and you will get that 21 degrees that you could tell lined up just by twisting it around as well. So if you see a shortcut, it might work, but you want to double check. So the same thing is here. They're taking a 26 plus 90 to get this angle, which they're calling YZX, the smiley face angle, Y to Z to X. That's what this means right here. And they got Y to Z to X equals 64. Now they're saying YZ to X, which is 64, plus WZX has to be 90. So they can take 90 minus 64 to get 26, which once again, if you know some things about rectangles, you could have twisted this around so that they were equal, and you could have saw that those would have been 26. They would have matched up. The last idea today is something called vertical angles. And vertical angles are what we call kissing angles. They make an X. And do you see this smiley face is kissing this smiley face? This heart is kissing this heart. They're not adjacent, but what they are is they're equal. And this is a really big idea. The vertical angles are what we called congruent, which means they are equal. So, like I said, this smiley face is equal to this smiley face. This heart angle is equal to this heart angle, because all these kissing angles, the ones that share the tips, are congruent. So we can write an equation to figure out what x is by saying, well, this 56 has to equal this 2x. And now you can get x by itself by dividing both sides by 2. And you get x is 28. Now, x is not 28 degrees. The angle is actually 56, but 2 times 28 gives you 56, which is what you need. This might be the last one. Nope, there's 2 more. Dang, 3 more. Woo, dogs, we're working hard today. All right, consider rectangle ABCD, and it says that diagonals BD and AC intersect or touch at E. What has to be true? Okay, let's see what we have here. BEA, which is right here, BEA, and CED, are they vertical angles? Are they kissing? The answer is yes. Vertical angles are congruent, so they will both be 104. That's true. Oops. Let's try the next one. ABE and CBE are complementary. Well, that's another word for you to write down. Complementary means add to 90. Complementary angles add to 90 degrees. Well, what do you think? Are those two angles, when you put them together, if it is a rectangle, do they add to 90? And the answer is yes, they do. Next, BEC, and CED, are they vertical? Are those two vertical? Are they kissing? No, those are adjacent. Those are not kissing, so that's not correct. Next, BEA, and AED, are they supplementary, which adds to 180? Do they make a straight line together? Yes, they do. That's another word for you to write down in your notebook for you to know, and that's called supplementary angles. It's another word on these are linear pair, supplementary angles. They add to 180 degrees. So that one is true. And then our last one says BEC, BEC, and AED. Are they adjacent? Are they right next to each other and share a side? No, those two are vertical angles. So we got the top two and that fourth one down. Now we're going to try to use everything we know to solve these tricky puzzles. They want us to find C and D, but sometimes we have to skip around and just find the stuff we know. What is the easiest thing to find here? In my opinion, the easiest thing to find would be A, because that makes a straight line. So 180 minus 120 is 60, and A is going to be 60 degrees. Now that you know what that is, the next thing you should kind of be looking at here is this triangle. Triangles add to 180. So I have 180 minus 60, my new angle, minus another 60. And guess what angle B is? That's also a little glitcher. That is also 60. Here's a straight line. Straight lines add to 180. I have 180 minus 90, because that's what the little square block means, minus 60. And what does angle D equal? Angle D would have to be 30 degrees. And now that I know that angle D is 30 degrees, I can use the top triangle to take 180 minus 90 for the square, minus 30 for the one that we just found, and we can find that we get 60 degrees for angle C. So it's kind of like a puzzle using everything you know. Find the easiest ones first. Let's see what we got here. Which one looks easiest? Well, it depends what you see first. Mrs. Bruno is really good at seeing the kissing angles, those vertical angles. So since the top is 93, I know that the bottom angle B is 93 because they're vertical. Some of you might not have seen that first, though. Some of you maybe would have saw the straight line first. Straight lines add to 180. So angle C is going to be 180 minus 93. And you get 87 degrees for angle C. And then we have a triangle here, which also adds to 180. 180 minus 93 minus 42. And we get 45 degrees for angle A. Some of these are tricky. You will get better with practice, but sometimes it'll be a little fun. Make sure you just ask some questions if you have them.